Thank you all. Is the simple solution to take the executive order and codify it? Mr. Chester?
Yes, Senator. I mean, that is the simplest, and that's the first step. But I do believe that we also need to look in a more comprehensive fashion at the fact that the action that we take causes a reaction on the part of the traffickers, and that they have a wide variance in chemicals that they can bring in the United States. But absolutely, that's a critical, most important first step that we have to take.
Yes, Chairman. Making the temporary scheduling order permanent so that we have permanent class-wide scheduling is the first and most important step we can take right now to fight this epidemic.
I would agree with that as well. This is fentanyl, and the fentanyl analogs are the most commonly common drug that we see with all of the other analogs. And since the permanent schedule, or since the emergency scheduling of those fentanyl and fentanyl analogs, we've seen a 40% reduction in new instances of drugs coming into the United States. But yes,
I got you. Is it that you would like the committee to add to the executive, the emergency order that's not in there?
Senator, we'd like to work with your staff to ensure that the formulation that is in the order is as comprehensive as possible, so that we can account for the greatest number of potential variations, not only to fentanyl molecules but other non-fentanyl synthetic opioids. So that as Mr. Cherundolo pointed out, he's absolutely correct. When you take action against a substance, you see an immediate drop in that action. In the
so we're
encounters with
a
that.
Chemical war here. You know, they alter their tactics, right?
Yes, Senator, you're absolutely correct. And so the more comprehensive look we can take at that, the better chance we have.
I would agree with that, but I think the first and foremost issue is the fentanyl-like substances that need to be scheduled because of the time crunch that we're under.
Okay. Same with you, Greg?
I would agree too, because fentanyl is killing the most American citizens.
So how about, that makes sense to me, and if anybody has got objections, we'll certainly listen to them. It seems to be a good place to start. What about the idea of just the act of alteration being a crime? Forget about if you're not a doctor or a research scientist who has lawful authority to do this, just altering any of these drugs becomes the crime itself. Does that make any sense?
On the criminality of it, I'll defer to my Justice Department colleagues. What I will tell you is kind of the second part of the discussion, though, that we talked about is making the resulting substances from that act available for research purposes, which we have to do with the equal aggressiveness of bringing them under control, because we don't know the potential outcomes of the human ingestion of a lot of these substances.
Right.
And so our HHS partners, our researchers have to have access to them.
That makes sense. Amanda?
And the department fully supports research in this field. I think it would depend on what sort of substances that we're talking about and what sort of alterations are being made to them. I don't know if it's fair to sort of say that across the board.
With the intent of selling them illicitly. So isn't that something to think about, that if you're taking any drug, fentanyl, just any drug, and your purpose is to chemically alter it if you chemically altered it for the purpose of selling it illegally, that in of itself becomes a crime.
I think that could be something that we could look at down the road as a way to address these non-synthetic.
Well, that's what I want to look at. I want to look at rather than chasing the chemistry of all this stuff, let's go to the initial act, which is to take a substance and alter it for the purpose of selling it illicitly and, harming people in the process of getting a high that the government doesn't, you're not a doctor, you're outside the prescription process, the lawful process. So what I would like you to consider is not only codifying the temporary order, but instead of playing this chemistry game, the act of altering any drug for the purpose of illicit sales becomes a crime of its own. Thank you very much, Senator Feinstein.